We will start the panel. First, I like the word balancing because after all regulatory bodies do balancing, whether it is SEBI or DGCA or any regulatory body. If they want to be efficient, they will be doing optimal balancing. The regulatory boards don't draw the plans for energy mix of any country. It is the policymakers, energy planners, utilities. In the next few minutes, I just want to put forth a scenario in the next few decades in the world, but specifically in India, of what will happen in nuclear from various reports that have come, and the panelists probably can take off from them. See, until recently, the main objective of nuclear in the power sector was to generate electricity. But now there will be a greater role in the non-power sector, mainly because non-power sector is a greater CO2 emitter than the power sector. Hence, they have to concentrate on the non-power sector. In fact, I will like to call them as nuclear energy plants, not nuclear power plant, because they will be giving both power and process heat. Both big and small reactors are required. There is a limit to the safety that can be attained by evolution alone. We have to have innovative, first of the kind equipment and systems. In fact, many of the new designs depend on physics rather than engineering for safety. I am sure Mr. Bharadwaj, who has a soft corner for both, will not mind it. In fact, what will happen is with all these innovative systems, the current standards do not hold for these reactors. Now, with the EU bringing in carbon border adjustment tax, the private companies will be forced to replace the captive plants by either Bharat small reactors or Bharat small modular reactors or even small modular reactors which may be imported. In fact, coal repurposing will also be through SMRs. But there is an issue now that the land availability in all these could be a problem. In fact, many countries are even suggesting to collapse the natural growth zone and exclusion zone into plant boundary and maintain just emergency planning zone. The three-stage plan will be done with more vigor. There is a talk about 1 GeV accelerator, ADS system, which in fact accelerates the growth of thorium. Additionalities will be there through import of bigger reactors. As of now, only VVERs, but later probably EDF and Westinghouse. In fact, on the long run, I would imagine Indian molten salt reactor and compact high temperature reactors will be brought into industrial domain because they can attain higher temperature and will be more suitable for process heat. We are also going to probably bring in Indian light water and AHWR. Ashwini is born, so NTPC and NPC will combine to put many 700 megawatt reactors. SMRs may be imported by even private companies. A small role will be given to private companies. In fact, a bigger role for investment by private companies. We will probably see new fuels like AFT, HALEU, ANIL, and in these new fuel cycles, as well as the reactor systems which I mentioned, they have to establish circular economy, which means from mining to decommissioning. There are two very important words in the title of this panel. One is trust. The regulatory bodies should be looked with high esteem by all the stakeholders. Other is rapid development. Huge amount of nuclear would be there. In fact, renewable alone will not be able to make India meet the nationally determined contribution under the Paris Agreement. And so one of the targets which the government has fixed is 9% by 1947, which in my opinion will work to 2 lakh megawatts. Each of the panel members will get 7 minutes, but we are not building a project, so time overrun will be allowed. I don't want the audience to miss some vital comments by them. I now call Mr. Yadav to give his comments. If there are questions, it can be asked in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. And I thank the organizers for giving this opportunity to express my views on this topic, framework for nuclear renaissance, and of course the balancing the rapid growth. Yes. Now, I have been fortunate to work in the Department of Atomic Energy for 40 years. Then also I had got opportunity to work with the organization and industries which are associated with supply of the nuclear components. So I know the both sides of the coin, and also some type of talks which are there in the public domain that will also come in this topic type of thing. Now coming back to the topic, it is well known that India is going through a renaissance, though there was some objection in the term renaissance, but I think renaissance can be substituted with the rapid growth. We need power, and that is the only, if you have to meet our net zero target by whatever having committed by the government, then nuclear has to play a major role. Now in this context, we have got two contradictory requirements to come up. One is that we have to increase our power contribution, nuclear national grid. Today we are only 2%, 8,180 megawatt. It had to go to manifold. Now next two decades, 1 decade, and that is what the numbers are getting talked about. I will not go into the details, but I think it is required we must ramp up installing the large number of large power, like our 700 megawatt PWRs. These can be our indigenous designs, or even the imported reactors, which we are importing either from geopolitically and technologically friendly countries. These are the two things we must have to have. Similarly, we have many industries which are power intensive, like steel making, aluminum, cement. Everywhere there is a captive power plant. These captive power plants are also a big consumer of the power, though either they have drop out the grid or they make their own thing. I think there is a need to have a small reactors which are tailor-made for that requirement. So in that role, SMRs or VSR are also going to be there. So we will have to have a mix of the large size reactors as well as small size reactors. In this, there are, I think I have been told by the chairman, that there are so many power plants, thermal power plants, which are retiring, or they are based on the obsolete technologies. They need to be, they can be repurposed, but only condition will be to take care of their siting conditions. Because if you go by the current siting conditions, which are applied for the large reactors, you may have to relook into this. So that is the one point which I thought. So we have to, if you see this in total, so we have to mix up, IARB today had to handle mix up technologies, heavy water based technology, PHWRs, light water reactor technologies, either from Kulam or Indian sources, big sizes, different sizes, SMRs, VSRs, and then of course molten salt reactor and our own fast breeder reactors. So these, all the technologies are different. They have got their own uniqueness. I think there will be a need to structure the ERB into the different verticals. so that all this regulatory process can be taken. Because each reactor is a unique type of thing. Each type of thing has to be there. And even the documentation, the regulatory documents. I've been sitting in the ERB committees earlier, of course, some decade ago, but I used to hear some comments that this type of documents are not available in the ERB. I hope they are available. If they are not, I think there is a need to structure those ERB documents, other things. Now, there is one suggestion, because there is always a confusion, though a lot of regulatory guides have been made, but there is always a confusion of interpretation. That I suggest that document like NUREG US NUREG 800 can be made so that everything is very clearly defined, and that applicant knows what is the regulator wanting for. So this can be there. So this is one. Then there is one more thing. Now we are going for the ramping of the thing. There we are going to go to the duplication of the design. We should see the based on the type. That is, suppose one type of design is standardized, you give the regulatory clearances in M block so that the duplicacy of the efforts and things can be taken care of. Now come back to the industry perspective. This was the side of industry perspective. Now we go to industry perspective. Today our industry is well grown. If compared to the time when DAE started, today industry has well grown. We have a very good type of people available, so that the industry can take up the challenges. They are capable of doing the design, they are capable of manufacturing, they are capable of meeting the requirement challenges which DI wants. And quality consciousness is very much high in the industry. But only one point I would like to tell, though I have been telling at lot forum, that concept of L1 is killing. The concept that when you put the concept of L1 comes, you have to raise the tender, and you will end up, now it is mandatory to run to GEM portal, and then some new person comes up, and then, so all the experience which you have donated, either industry or this, that goes null and void. So ultimately you have to start ab initio. So there's capacity built up, and then possibility of leveraging the talent, possibility of deliveries, other things, that gets, we go back to zero. So I think there is a need to, I think I have very serious recommendation that let us separate the procurement process for nuclear compared to others. Like NDMA, there was a clause that NDMA has got all the power. I think if you, the rules which are required for the sourcing the nuclear components, that can be taken care of. Similarly, like in the countries which have gone for the major deployment of the nuclear power, they have they qualified some industries. Depending upon their expertise, I am not saying that you limit to only points. You have a set of industries, qualify them, and then give the job so that their interest is also taken care and they are able to invest there. So that all the knowledge built up happen, and then they continue to do this. So the kind of expertise development, other things should be taken care so that this can go on. Now coming back to the public perception, a lot of things have been discussed in the public perception. I think to me, my knowledge, when we talk, we use a term like accident, critical. These words, they are well understood by the nuclear fraternity people. But when we talk to the public, oh my God, something is going to happen bad. Yes, that's why these people are talking. So I think there is a need to have a simpler terminology to convince the people. And same thing that when we are talking ourselves, we may be, say, regulators are talking, NPC is talking, utility will be talking, but it may be construed that these people are interested parties, so they will be talking good about everything what they are doing. But I think there is a need to take care of the experts which are available in the industry, institutions. Then they can be the opinion farmer. They can be treated as a independent people who can give that type of thing. So that is the thing. And then I think, so I think there is a need to take care of the service of the professionals. One more point which I was just hesitating to speak, but let me speak there. When DA talks about in the public eye, everything is something secret, something secret. That is the kind of perception which public has. I think that perception needs to be corrected. Everything is not secret in DA. Yes, some activity may be there, but I think today scenario DA has to be transparent, open. So this type of perception should be corrected in the public. Though we know pretty well that this is not the thing here, professionals know. But this type of thing had to be percolated down to the public also. So in short, I will summarize few points which I just told. We have to gear up to handle so many verticals which are there, and then of course the regulatory process had to be very robust and the very clear documents should be there. Then consideration had to be given for the type of designs and the size of the large reactors or small reactors. You should have a different consideration. India is a populated country. We cannot have the same rule of 1 kilometer or 16 kilometers like that. Then standardization of the designs. Then you should have industries tune them for a specific type of products which are there. Then of course this again L1 concept must be taken care of. L1 concept is the one which will be, I think to some extent it is a determined, some obstacle even to the industry. They don't try to put that thing, when they come to infrastructure addition, they look only one project, they don't look 10 projects. So that is the kind of which has to be there. And take the service of the professionals to convince the public. So this is all. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Yadav. Mr. Bukti, please.
Yeah, I see here myself in minority because others are, of course, Bharadwaj Sahib is there with majority of his period in utility. But let me put my point of view on the today's subject. See, so far as the regulatory structure and regulatory processes, the review processes are concerned, I think they have been evolved over the period and have been well established and have proven over the time. And this has been adequately demonstrated or explained in the first session of today. The point which I would like to put forth is that, so far as the review process are concerned, they are quite robust in nature. We have, like if we talk about the review of the projects, we have 3 levels of reviews. One is the Project Design Safety Committee, and then the next committee of SAPSR and the board. And of course, the review is done, the level 3, level 4 aspects are left out. For example, I would say, then when we were actually in the first of a standard reactor, where S.K. Mehta Sahib was the chairman, I will cite 2 examples. One is that, during the review, it was found that there is a need for, under certain situation, a passive addition of reactivity into the core that should be done, like during the station blackout, and they said that this is what is required. And, that is what is the safety review, and ultimately we have experienced that that was very much essential, and it has proven itself during the Narora incident. The second thing which comes to my mind was his insistence on, appreciating the importance of the support system. Normally all the, the emphasis is given on the reactor systems, and we tend to forget the importance of the support systems. But Mehtaji has actually, I really appreciate that he at that point of time thought of or realized the importance and insisted that how important the safety support systems are, and that has been proven during the Fukushima incident. So, the review, what I want to say is that review should be to see with respect to whatever has been spelled out in the design guides and codes, whether they have been implemented properly or whether they are meeting the requirements or not, rather than review with respect to maybe layout, maintainability, and things like that, because there is no end to it. And all such things, as has been rightly pointed out in the morning by Bharadwaj sir, that has to be left to the designer, because it is ultimately the utilities idea is to see you get better operating performance. So this is one point which I wanted to say. The second point which came to my mind and experience is that, the regulatory review process is also a very good a learning platform for our engineers during the initial stages, where everybody goes through that in the AERB as well as in NPCIL. And therefore, the PDSC has a method of forming the working groups to have a detailed review. And generally we find that there are the youngsters in the working group from NPCIL side as well as on the AERB side. And even the doubts related to a particular design, are raised, and then they are discussed probably in the working group. Maybe the fresher from or the youngster from the NPCIL is not able to explain the reason behind that, and that is getting minuted. And then when it goes to the second review, it actually gets little more twist in its requirements or in its basic question, and it becomes an outstanding review point for the NPCIL or AERB, and NPCIL has to respond to that. And that is how we see there is a build-up of outstanding issues which need to be responded to AERB. And so we have been seeing that, in thousands such type of thing goes, and it becomes, it looks as if there are so many safety issues are involved. But basically what we see is actually, when it comes to safety, there are hardly any such review, and therefore some exercise was taken up, and in a few months of period, all the issues were found to be resolved. So what is required is that, there is a need to see that the review is done with respect to the safety of the plant and whether all the design, the codal requirements have been met properly or not. So more focus of the review should be on that. Then coming to these things about the the rapid growth of this thing, and that definitely involves the participation from the private parties. And what we see basically is a nuclear power plant is nothing more than a process plant, basically. If you see a process plant, all the processes which are there in nuclear power plant, more or less, except you leave how the heat is generated in the core, leaving that, but how heat has to be extracted from there, basically it is a process plant. So even the private party participation, when it happens, the people are quite well aware of the process plant, these things. What is required to be done is that their orientation towards the nuclear culture and understanding of the nuclear safety requirements. So what thing which was coming to my mind is that when such a thing happens, the AERB may think of putting a 6-month course to all such parties who come into the business, and those who will be involved in such activities should undergo such type of training. Ultimately, all of us have got that type of training, and then only our mindset has become towards nuclear. And if suppose that is done with them, and it should be made as a mandatory thing that everyone who is involved in the design or aspects or operational aspects should undergo such nuclear training, at least for a period of 6 months. I think that is what another thing. And with respect to rapid growth, we can only think of rapid growth unless energy is sellable. So the cost is very important. The safety review also must concern, must consider the cost aspects of it. For example, if we say, like post-Fukushima, there was a requirement of on-site emergency support center. Now you think what has happened in Fukushima, and let us take our Rajasthan site, wherein maybe the Rajasthan 7 and 8 site is at a much higher elevation, maybe around 50-55 meters from this. Whether such a thing is a requirement. I'm just citing example. Similarly, another thing which comes to my mind is, the implementation of the factory rules with respect to meeting the fire safety regulations. Now we know the reactor building dimensions are actually constant because of various reasons. In fact, if you try to increase the dimensions of reactor building to meet these requirements, then we may land into another unsafe situations. So one has to think and, one has to really review with respect to that, and maybe some administrative things can be put in place rather than insisting that no, since it is a part of the Factories Act, it must be implemented. Now, these are some of the things which, examples which come to my mind. And what I mean to say is a more holistic approach needs to be adopted towards the review. And because the cost is also very important. Rapid growth only will happen when, the energy has to remain sellable. So these are what some of the points which I thought that I should put forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Garg.
Actually, the topic for discussion for today was balancing the regulatory processes for fostering the rapid growth of nuclear energy while ensuring public trust and safety. We expect a rapid growth in nuclear power because the conventional fuels are generating a lot of greenhouses, and there is a commitment by the government of India to go green in the near future. So that puts nuclear power at the forefront. Now, if we see the regulatory processes followed so far, there have been a parallel review and parallel development of the nuclear power in India. Being one operator and one regulator, and both from the same training school, understood each other, so these processes worked. And the processes were parallel. And of course, when the design is evolving and we are reviewing the application, and without a complete set of inputs, this process is going to be long one. That has happened so far. But a dilemma of the regulator is always there, whether complete safety case is available for approval. It was not the case so far. So when a private player comes with a complete design, I think that system has to be a different one. And when we talk about the small reactors or Bharat small reactor, they are going to be of one design and they are going to be replicated at different places. So the review process may not be that lengthy, but it has to go or design evaluation once and then accepted in the regulatory body. So as far as the requirements are concerned, regulatory requirements for a nuclear reactor, they are not going to change. They are meant to be followed, and each operator has to know that requirement. Only thing is that processes in ARB had to be tailor-made so that we are able to meet the demand and efficiency. But as far as the regulator is concerned, it's going to ensure that all the requirements are met before approval is given. That's my view. Thank you.
Good evening. I was, when looking at the title, the two terms particularly strike in my mind. That one is balancing the processes, second is ensuring public safety and trust. Let us start from the public safety and trust point of view. The post-Fukushima days, all the regulators around the world went about enhancing the safety requirements. Essentially today what the requirements, if you look at across the world, it is they have the highest or most stringent safety requirements today. And I think this benchmark is only going to go up, and I don't think it is going to come down with respect to safety. The essential elements required for a effective regulatory regulation are: one is having robust requirements, second is having efficient processes, third is people who are competent to implement those processes. You see, if you look at the regulatory scenario in India, it has, in the morning, lot was talked about that the process essentially developed organically because it was essentially tuned to our own requirements, which was, the nuclear power program, while it was continuous, it was, the pace was moderate, I would put it. And the regulatory processes and requirements also grew along with that, essentially addressing our own requirements. Chairman AERB, in his address, he spoke about the importance of knowledge-based. Initially it was essentially the requirements and processes were knowledge-based, and as we become, as we look at the requirement of rapid growth, we will have to shift more towards the rule-based approach, essentially in the areas where the requirements as well as their understanding is well established. That also, the other area is, what is important in this is how to have a balance when we come to the application of the regulatory requirements as well as processes. The chairman of the panel mentioned that when we are looking at the expansion, there is also a scenario of the likelihood of non-power nuclear applications. I think when we look at the requirements established by AERB today, this is one area where, we need to do some work, which I think, having seen the growth of the nuclear nuclear regulator, I think, the AERB today has the capacity to adopt the requirements with respect to this new area. Essentially, what we are looking at is many first of a kind systems and equipment. I think I don't see it as an unsurmountable issue. The AERB has sufficient resilience to adopt the changes required for that. The things were talked about having requirements with respect to siting. The essential, in this area, I would say the essential principles to be followed for addressing this issue is well understood. And, finally, the requirements in by any regulator will have to take into account the legal systems, the need of the policy, how to, because as a regulator, I will say, while yes, the regulators are seen to be roadblocks, but my take on the role of the regulator is also to facilitate the society to take benefit of the available technology. I think as a responsible regulator, AERB will take the necessary measures for addressing that responsibility. But this will have to be done in a manner which doesn't impact the public trust. So this is one area where we will have to work. When it comes to standardization, I am looking at 2-3 challenging areas. One is the time duration required for completing the regulatory processes. Mr. Muktibodh made a comment about design review versus design safety review. The essential element. When there is no two opinions about that. It has to, the role of AERB is, or any regulator is to look at design safety review. When we look at the principles of regulation, one of the first principle is the prime responsibility for safety rests with the operator or the proponent. I think the most important part of the entire act is that prime responsibility must be demonstrated. It is the responsibility of the proponent that they demonstrate compliance to the requirements in an unequivocal manner. And demonstration means demonstration. But the role of the regulator is to check and verify that prime responsibility is implemented. I think if this message is taken, I think a lot of the debates which we go through can be cut short. I think they cannot be avoided. They are going to be there. There will be issues where we have differing viewpoints. I think it will continue to be there, but it can be minimized. One point is, the use of standardization because that is something, a very essential element when we look for rapid expansion. The installations need not be the best, but it must be appropriate or adequate. It should meet that level of safety minimum. It need not be the best, the safest reactor. So this is one point I think a lot of professionals working in this area give emphasis. The standardization is also an essential requirement when it comes to the demands of the supply chain, because building customized equipment for large-scale program is not an easy thing, because it's all a cycle where there are a lot of players are involved. I think these are my initial thoughts. I think, and from whatever two remarks were there, based on that, these are my responses to those points.